Welcome, friends. Welcome, family. What's going on, Ma? Welcome you guys to a Wednesday edition on the Watch Party here. Glad you guys are here. Good to see you. No, I didn't say hi before I jumped in, but here we are. I mean, what do you want me to do, bro? I mean, it's noon on the East, and here we are. We're ready to do this. Lots going on as usual, but maybe not as much as you would expect, because as you guys may have heard, the government is now in shutdown mode. I'm not sure where where any of the developments have gone on since this morning when I've started looking into these things, but it seemed to be not that quickly developing and not all that surprising that it happened this time. We'll get into all those details. We got other things happening. Some speculative things that were happening on the internet that my attention was put on by one of you all that sent another story to me that I'm going to do second. Um, there's no full confirmation of this, which I'll get into more of, but it's pretty salacious and it seems to be ruffling some feathers with some of the most powerful people in our government. How's that for a tease? But either way it goes, if you guys enjoying what we're doing, like, subscribe, share this damn stream. When we do all these stories, they go up on the watch list YouTube video channel as well. You find those. Maybe you can do those same things over there. Share it, like it, let people know what's happening. Glad to see you all there. Yes, Michigan John, it's a J hat. Sometimes you have to just have hats made with the first initial of your name on them, even though that's not what I did. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started. I feel like I've been going over lately on time, and I don't like really doing that unless it's really a big deal, which was I felt like yesterday was one of those times. But I think I tend to think I don't have as many things ready to go that I did, and then I go over. Let's go ahead and get started. It's the government shutdown talk. You guys may have heard about this before. These things happen, I feel like, every year, but it must not be. But it's definitely happening right now.
Inch closer to a government shutdown. This morning, you said you might do a lot of layoffs. If Doge is already reducing the federal workforce, why is it necessary to link more federal jobs cut to a shutdown?
Well, the Democrats want to shut it down. So when you shut it down, you have to do layoffs. So we'd be laying off a lot of people that are going to be very affected. And the Democrats, they're going to be Democrats. As you know, no country can afford to pay for illegal immigration, health care for everybody that comes into the country. That's what they're insisting. And
inch closer to
The president covered a couple things in his response to that question that I'm not sure if you heard it, but it was about their demands as far as this government shutdown and why it's potentially good. And I guess his whole idea was it's the Democrats. I mean, you have to go straight to the first talking point. And I get it. Both parties do that whenever these government shutdown battles happen. It turns into that blame game, which, got to be honest, I feel like the vast majority of Americans don't understand why one party or the other will be blamed, but they get asked as if they have all this information when honestly, it's politicking. They give their sides, they talk about what it is they want, and maybe that process isn't always put in front of folks' faces. It just turns into my team versus your team. But here's some details that maybe allow you to have a more of an educated response or decision as to whose fault it really is. Before we get into all the hypocrisy and all the things that they're saying and the politicking, as I'm talking about, which is honestly the hardest part because you have to decipher all this and somehow analyze it to make some kind of sense. But Democrats are using this leverage that they have as far as this 60 vote threshold in the Senate to pass this budget that will continue to allow the Republicans to run the government and destroy things the way that they are. So that leverage that they have to get the 60 votes in the Senate, they're using it to push for renewing expanded healthcare subsidies for people who buy insurance through the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. Their proposal would make permanent enhanced tax breaks that are otherwise due to expire at the end of the year and make them available to more middle income households. So, again, this is from a Reuters article talking about how Democrats want to make sure that middle income households and people who aren't uber rich and have paid Donald Trump, maybe they have the opportunity to still have health care. Don't forget, this bill that they passed, Republicans passed, it was part of it was stripping so many people of their health care. So this is an opportunity for Democrats to fight back and at least give something to the constituents that keep saying, you guys are complaining about this fascist in the White House, but you're not doing anything. I'm one of those people. So these are maybe some of the actions they can do. It's a detrimental effect on the entire government. That's why these actions end up being so big. So a little bit more. If these tax breaks are allowed to expire, health insurance costs will increase dramatically for many of the 24 million Americans who get their coverage through the ACA. That's according to a nonpartisan Kaiser Family Foundation. So that impact will be the most acute in Republican-controlled states and that have not expanded the Medicaid health plan for the poor. Again, I know it's in the weeds, but there was opportunities for states to accept these exchanges through the ACA that they many times didn't, because it was Obama, and we have to hate anything that happens, no matter how much it has any benefit to our constituents. But whenever constituents do benefit from the Democratic plans that not always, sometimes get passed, they take credit after they vote against it. It happens all the time. But those are a little bit of the weeds and the mess of it. Let's go back to the lies that the president was telling as far as healthcare plans, because this is their response that's against this idea to allow more Americans who've been getting lower subsidized healthcare plans, which in my opinion are still too much to pay for, through this program. And instead, they're going to put it all on the boogeyman that you can probably figure they'll go for.
President, undocumented immigrants,
We actually do have time for that.
they're not eligible for the healthcare subsidies that Democrats are demanding. So can you clarify, what are you talking about when you say Democrats want to protect their healthcare?
So when an illegal person comes in, a person who came into our country illegally, therefore breaking the law, and look, we all have big hearts. I have a bigger heart than you do. They're all breaking the law, and they're coming into our country. And we just, as a country, cannot afford to take care of millions of people who have broken the law coming in. We want them to come into our country, but we want them to come in legally. Now we have a strong border, very strong border, thanks to Christie and Tom Homan and the whole group. They've done an amazing job at the border. I mean, we had a border that was reckless. We had a border that was a disaster. They were coming in by the millions. I say 25 million people. You're saying less, but I say 25 million people came in illegally. And no system can take care of the health care of all of those people that came.
President, undocumented immigrants.
We actually do have time for that.
So, did you hear an answer to that question? Because she was asked and pointed out to him and asked him his response to the fact that undocumented immigrants aren't using our healthcare system. They can. It's illegal. But as usual, Republicans' answer is always, of course it's illegal. That's why they're doing it and they're breaking the law. But there's absolutely no record of it. They just say things. It's part of their whole lie when it comes to them trying to push that bill that they passed. But did you see how he didn't answer that question? He went on to talk about how, these are just illegals that come in. Again, we understand who we're talking about, but what you're lying about is that they have access to healthcare. You're lumping in a bunch of folks who are undocumented migrants to this country with American citizens who you're trying to strip their coverage of or the ability to have this subsidized level of it. And then he went to fear mongering about the numbers. They're flooding. You see them swarming across the border. They're going to kill you. That's always the same go-to argument that scares enough MAGA people to release their hold on any logic and reality and go straight back to fear and jumping back under the covers and worrying about that boogeyman that's under the bed they've never seen. He knows it, and he calls them stupid, and they go along with it anyway. Mike Johnson does it a lot more, boringly. But here is Caitlin Collins trying to ask him this same question about the basis for their lie, being that these undocumented immigrants are on our healthcare systems and they're just flooding the system and destroying things. But he finds 4 to 5 different ways to lie about it. Hope you have the patience to listen to this guy.
People, as you know, people who are here in the United States legally have never been eligible for the Obamacare subsidies, for Medicare, for Medicaid. So what exactly are you saying that they're trying to do when you talk about giving free health care to them?
I'm so glad you asked. Okay, so when we passed the One Big Beautiful Bill, the Working Families Tax Cut, we had Medicaid reforms in the bill. You and I talked about it on the air. What we did was to eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse. There were a lot of people on the program who were enrolled in the program who were never eligible to be there. Medicaid is intended for eligible U.S. citizens, not illegal aliens, not also U.S. citizens who are able-bodied workers like young men. So we passed the law. This president signed it into law. Democrats voted against it, of course. And it's been wildly successful. The CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, which is the neutral arbiter of all these things, released a report a few weeks ago, earlier this month, And they said, you know what? The bill has had its intended purpose. Premiums are coming down. Listen, because 2.3 million ineligible enrollees have been kicked off of Medicaid, which helps to save the program, prop it up. And $185 billion has been saved already
So
in fraud, waste, and
basically,
abuse.
what you did was narrow the eligibility for certain people to get access to the ACA subsidies. What they want to do is undo the changes that Republicans made in that. But basically, wouldn't that only affect people who do have legal status, people who are refugee seekers here in the United States, asylum seekers
So
here?
those are two totally different issues. So now they've created this as a new argument that they have as to why they should not keep the government open, but they're arguing a December policy debate for a September funding issue. The subsidies that you're talking about don't expire until the end of December.
No. Those are the subsidies for just everyday Americans. That's one thing that obviously has been the main premise of their argument. But you're saying they want to give free health care to people who are in the United States illegally.
That is exactly what the effect will be.
But when I looked at it, there's a little nuance because they want to undo changes that y'all made, narrowing who is eligible to get that. Those are people who are refugee seekers, asylum seekers. They're not technically people who are here illegally, just cross the border.
No, this is exactly what will happen. And Maxine Waters admitted, I think, accidentally today on the House steps, they want to give health care to everybody.
But Maxine Waters is not in charge. She's not the one. She didn't write
She's
this
one of the senior
proposal
leaders in the
bill
House,
that Democrats are
and everybody
proposing.
should Google it and read their counter proposal
But you see
yourself.
my point, right? You're making this argument that they want to just give health care to everyone who's here illegally. This is not for people who cross the border and don't have paperwork. These are people who have temporary protected status, right?
Absolutely. What will happen if that counter proposal was enacted is illegal aliens would be paid for. American taxpayers, hard-earned dollars, would be paying for benefits for illegal aliens again. We're not doing that.
But it's against federal law for people who are here illegally to get
and that's why our reforms are so important to enforce all that. What the important thing to remember is what's happening. I didn't see that in the
Democratic proposal that people who are here illegally should get
because
healthcare.
they don't have the level of specification that we had in our bill. It will unwind that and all those things that the CBO just
I believe I muted myself, you guys. Let's see if you guys saw that. Oh, there you are. I'm back. This is what I want to point out. Mike Johnson, this is what I was just saying. Mike Johnson lies throughout that entire 3 minutes that he talked to Caitlin Collins, the entire time. Everything that he says is based in a lie. So once he starts lying, he continues on. And then when she tells him, I looked into these things that you're lying about, his only answer is, well, that's not the case. I'm Mike Johnson. I said so. I'm a Christian. I'm Moses. God told me I'm supposed to be here. That's not really how, accountability works. That's not how facts work. That's not how any of this stuff works. But that's how this party operates. So as we've gone through this whole litany of talking about how undocumented immigrants are taking up all your health care, when in reality, these guys keep narrowing the access to health care, which was already bad enough for American citizens, even more so. But they just lump in that same boogeyman that Donald Trump started with, because that's what Mike Johnson does. But every time facts are brought up, for some reason, they don't have much of a response to it. Here's more. There was a correspondent on MSNBC that talked about what this would actually do. The more of the stripping of people's access to healthcare, just how bad it would look for normal folks. Check this out.
I'm hearing the concept of even premiums tripling.
Yeah, so fewer people on health insurance means that health insurance companies raise prices for everyone who's buying through these marketplaces that were created under the ACA or Obamacare. Look at what this means for a representative family. Take a 55-year-old couple making $85,000 a year. Their insurance bill at the moment is $7,225, thanks to the subsidies that we talked about. The subsidies go away. Their bill goes to $20,792. But then you have what I talked about a minute ago, that premiums just go up in general because fewer people are on insurance. So their premiums actually go to $24,535. You tell me how a couple making $85,000 can afford to pay $24,000 for their insurance. Hence, you see all those people dropping off of the insurance rolls.
I think it's pretty straightforward. Like, there needs to be an argument that's given to refute what we just heard. So when people's premiums go up, as you know, all of these plans and agendas from this Republican Party would force it to happen, people take off because they can't afford it. So it turns into the back and forth of the blaming. I like the way AOC responded to some of these folks who are saying, you guys just want to give illegals, illegals, illegals. It's a constant baiting fear tactic. But if they really want the government to be open, which we're going to find out just how much Donald Trump does not and the reasons why, they would have to at least, be confronted with this bit of reality.
And I saw some Republican members of Congress saying, oh, well, if we have this shutdown, it's because of AOC. Well, if that's the case, my office is open and you are free to walk in and negotiate with me directly. Because what I'm not going to do is tolerate 4 million uninsured Americans because Donald Trump decided one day that he wants to just make sure that kids are dying because they don't have access to insurance. That's what's not going to happen. And so if those senators think that we're having a shutdown because of me, they're free to enter my office and negotiate, because what we're not going to do is allow all of millions of people in this country to not be able to afford their insulin and their chemotherapy. So come strike a deal with me if that's what they really think is going on.
I think it's pretty clear that nobody showed up at AOC's door. There's multiple reasons behind it. The other one we'll get to in a second, and it has to do with those Epstein files. But still, sometimes this is the kind of leadership. I've heard Hakeem Jeffries talking. I've been hearing Chuck Schumer talking, because they're the leaders of the party in both the Senate and the House. And it's never anything that really sticks. It's never anything that's based in direct, actual speaking. It's so prepared. It's over the top to the point where nobody wants to listen to you. It's off of a paper, and we tried to negotiate. We went into the room. Even when Donald Trump posted that offensive video with AI talking with Chuck Schumer and then with Hakeem Jeffries having a big sombrero on, their response was like, it's pretty bad. And you know what? That's pretty bad. Like, just can we have natural, normal speakers that connect with human beings and tell people the situation of really what it is, instead of these well-prepared and overly political types of statements from the actual leadership of the Democratic Party? Because this guy leaves so many openings. Here's Donald Trump again, revealing very clearly that as he's talking about whose blame it should be for shutting down the government, it's actually something that he is going to use as both a threat and also a weapon.
Say about the state of the Democrat Party when they have a 33% favorability rating on average in recent months, and they're willing to shut down the government over healthcare.
They are shutting it down. We're not shutting it down. We don't want it to shut down because we have the greatest period of time ever. I told you we have $17 trillion being invested. So the last person that wants to shut down is us. Now, with that being said, we can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible. that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like. And you all know Russell Vogt. He's become very popular recently because he can trim the budget to a level that you couldn't do any other way. So they're taking a risk by having a shutdown because of the shutdown, we can do things medically and other ways, including benefits. We can cut large numbers of people out. We don't want to do that, but we don't want fraud, waste, and abuse. And, we're cutting that.
That's the approach that this president of the United States has for the people. You notice he has this opponent nature in his brain. He can't break it to the point he doesn't even realize how bad he sounds. His threat, so that if the Dems shut down the government, this was, of course, the day before it actually happened, was that he's going to cut vast people out of the government. He's going to fire all these folks. He's going to cut programs that they like. He's going to do things like cutting benefits. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. So his idea is that the things that he would do to harm American citizens, doesn't matter their political affiliation, to harm American citizens by doing even more damage once the government's shut down, is things that he's characterizing as being Democrats. Democrats want to protect normal humans and Americans in the country from his slashing and burning technique. And he's openly saying, if they let this government shut down, I'm going to slash and burn and hurt more Americans, things that they're looking to protect. How is that not an admission that he's totally against the United States of American citizens? I don't see how else it's seen, except it's Democrats. It's the things they like, not things that humans and American citizens have paid for and deserve. It's things that Democrats like. And here's the things that he said Russ Vought is getting so popular around, because Russ Vought carries the same water that Donald Trump does.
And we're going to manage this shutdown and try to keep the American people from the havoc that the Democrats have caused on with their crazy demands. But let it be said, there are all manner of authorities to be able to keep this administration's policy agenda moving forward. And that includes reducing the size and scope of the federal government. And we will be looking for opportunities to do that.
Their whole plan is to reduce the size and scope of the government even further. All that fraud, waste, and abuse they kept talking about that they then had to retract and say, oh, my bad, actually, none of that's going on. As, again, right before this shutdown happened, they were talking about how they're trying to rehire so many people that Elon Musk kicked out indiscriminately so he could get access to as many things as possible in our government and sell it off and destroy it. But Russ Vought wants to cut it down even more. Where's Russ Vought popular? Trump said, he's gaining so much popularity in Donald Trump's brain. The threats are empty. I mean, if they carry it out, it makes it pretty clear exactly who it is that's harming Americans. But there's another representative that's talking so much of the way that MAGA needs him to. His name is Representative Mark Alford. And this is before the shutdown even started. It's clear that the thing that Donald Trump wanted was for him to have this whole show, that circus that he had with Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. But even before it happened, Representative Alford was talking about how much none of that needs to be negotiated. Nobody needs to talk about it. What he needs to do is make this another presentation and another, I guess, some kind of a show to make Democrats look bad, not to negotiate, not to figure out a way to keep the government open, because it's nothing that they ever actually wanted. Here's Alford.
What they wanted, all this crazy spending, going back to the woke policies and giving illegal aliens health care. Trump said, there's no way. Why should I meet with them? I think over the last couple of days, he's rethought that. Let's bring him into the Oval Office. Let's give him a little taste of what we gave Zelensky back in spring. This is going to be live viewing, I believe, in the Oval Office like you've never seen before, maybe an hour-long meeting, and the American people can see for themselves the ridiculous requests and demands as the Democrats hold them hostage. Look, this is what
are those ridiculous requests? Allowing Americans to have access to health care without spending $35,000, which, again, the $7,000 to $10,000, whatever the number they were given on MSNBC, is also too much. We find ourselves in this trying to normalize this extreme nature of spending for health care, bro. But those are ridiculous and extreme positions, according to Mark Alford, who went to town halls. This is the same guy who went to town halls and someone told him to pull his head out of Donald Trump's ass, and people screamed and shouted him down because he loves his town halls. But last little wrinkle on this, as we've seen, the constant talk has been about how they want to eliminate more people's access to healthcare. But it's these Democrats with their pesky views about trying to help Americans, live. Check out the irony. And J.D. Vance trying to appeal to what it is that would be lost once the government was shut down, and see if it makes any sense to you.
And it's craziness, and people are going to suffer because of it. I mean, people who benefit from low-income food programs are going to suffer because of this. If you're flying today, I hope, of course, you arrive safely and on time, but you may not arrive on time because the TSA and the air traffic controllers are not getting paid today. Our military is not getting paid today, starting today, and it's
J.D. Vance, the vice president of this MAGA party. He's the guy who just said he's worried about low-income food programs and air traffic controllers getting paid. This is the same administration who said fraud, waste, and abuse about 187,000 times when Elon Musk came in, and he was cutting things like, low-income food programs, cancer research, air traffic controllers. He hopes that you're going to make it on your flight just safely, as air traffic controllers aren't getting paid. They didn't have anything to say when Donald Trump was blaming these sudden crashes in midair over DC and over other parts of the country and a lack of air traffic control normalcy because they were cutting so many things. But now they want to pitch to you that they give a damn about low-income food programs and air traffic controllers. You can understand that it's a pre-planned talking point, because Caroline Levitt said it too.
Because the overwhelming majority of the American public wants to keep the government open. I mean, it's not even close. Democrats and Republicans, independents across the country want the government funded because they want our military and our troops to be paid. They want TSA agents and Border Patrol to be paid. They want food assistance programs for women and children in impoverished communities to continue going out the door. All of that will come to an end if Democrats vote against this clean CR that Republicans are proposing. And might I just add, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are on the record multiple times in their past political lives stating that they too believe a government shutdown is bad. In fact, I quote, Chuck Schumer just last year in 2024 said a shutdown would mean chaos and pain and needless heartache for the American people. Well, we hope that Chuck Schumer and the Democrats won't cause chaos and pain and heartache. We want our country to continue to be funded. We want our government to be open so we can continue doing the business of the American people.
I think behind all this, obviously, the access to continue to run roughshod over the country with all the funds that they can to collect together and also pull back from things that were already appropriated by Congress under Trump's demands. They want to have that free flowing of money still going. They're definitely not enjoying this shutdown, but it's not because of the way that people are affected. Not because of the way that federal workers are affected or how anything that's reliant on that is affected. It's strictly based on the ability to continue to just freely throw money around to as many oligarchs and as many detrimental positions as possible. But she wants to go with that same argument. Well, I mean, previous years before, Chuck Schumer and them talked about how horrible it is to shut down the government. That's right. Politics are always played. But what they don't want people to think is that every situation is different. So, I mean, let's act like every situation is the same. Let's go with it. There's this guy. He looks a lot like the president currently. And since she's talking about previous comments and statements made about shutting down the government, she should listen to him too.
The interesting thing is in 25 years and 50 years and 100 years from now, when the government is, when they talk about the government shutdown, they're going to be talking about the president of the United States. Who was the president at that time? They're not going to be talking who the head of the House was, the head of the Senate, who's running things in Washington. They're going to be talking about during the Obama administration. It was a disaster. So guys like Boehner, who is in there working hard, and he's got one of the truly hard jobs of the world, they're not going to be really discussing him. They're going to be discussing one person. So I really think the pressure is on the president, personally, in terms of his own history. You know, the interesting.
It's always someone else's fault. That is until he's in the position where it's then that guy's fault. That was during the Obama years. If you couldn't tell how old that video was, Elizabeth Hasselbeck was still on the panel on Fox and Friends. So last little part here, and in case you needed to see any more of the hypocrisy, every argument that they put forward is either not based in any reality or it's so hypocritical that they probably shouldn't make it if they would assume anyone would take a glance back at anything they've ever said and the reasons that they said it. Here's JD Vance. This is just from last year.
Why shouldn't we be trying to force this government shutdown fight to get something out of it that's good for the American people? Like, why have a government if it's not a functioning government?
Why have a government? If it's not a functioning government. Currently, our government that's functioning under Donald Trump and that same JD Vance is destroying the economy. Many small businesses are talking about how they're suffering. Farmers every day. I could have a farmer story every day. I'm beginning to get tired of the farmers' stories because it's just so consistent. Is it functioning for them? Is it functioning for cancer research? Is it functioning for all these groups and entities that he's trying to lean on and say, I'm not going to fund you anymore? Is it working for any of those folks, or is it working for the folks that are paying him $1 million or $2 million at a time for him to give away money to their businesses and corporations, for all those oligarchs that stand behind him? Is it working for folks who are dying and don't have access to healthcare already? It's not like our situation was great and they're trying to make it bad. It was bad and they're trying to make it worse. It's just one aspect that Democrats are fighting for, this healthcare approach. There's so many other things that they're destroying in this country that they won't even bring up. That's pretty easy, I think, to bring up. And one of those things is, the Epstein files. Let's shift to that. But first, let me ask you guys: Am I muted? I mean, nobody wants to hear me drinking water while we're in a clip. Come on, bro. I gotta mute sometimes. Who wants to hear go? Nobody wants to hear that stuff. Anyways, all right. Just seeing what you guys are saying. I apologize. Appreciate you though. Let's move on to this next story. It's a little bit salacious. It's totally not confirmed. I want to start by saying that this is totally not confirmed. But it was intriguing, and maybe you guys can help me try to determine how truthful this guy's declaration really is. Check this out.
Hey, here's a message for Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. Pay attention, bud. This is for Mike Johnson. If you're not Mike Johnson, you can keep scrolling or you can stay here and listen to what I have to say. Hey, Mike, you have until Wednesday to swear her in. Wednesday. Or I will release your Grindr profile and your IP address. I bring receipts, bitch. You're not going to sit there and actively work against LGBTQ rights and democracy. It is treason. Yeah, I'm calling you out for treason. You have until Wednesday to swear her in and let democracy take its course, or I will release your Grindr profile and your IP address. Connects both to you, Mike. The choice is yours. Do the right thing. Because I'm petty. And I'm not above this bullshit. Go fuck yourself.
Sorry. I feel like he, fully encompassed what he wanted there. Under TikTok user Razzle Dazzle Mo. A few days ago, beginning of this week, made that ultimatum in a video directed at Speaker Mike Johnson. I'm not sure if you guys saw that. Someone sent this to me, and it's totally unconfirmed. I don't know this guy. I don't know his actual information he's got. It was such a teaser. It could easily be seen as someone just making a threat. Someone just empty-handedly saying they have information about someone that would be totally showing their hypocritical nature and the extreme nature and the reasons possibly behind why they're hiding all these pedophiles that were part of the Epstein files. But I want to give you guys just some information on what it is he's talking about in case you haven't been following those news. This guy's talking about swearing in Adelita Grijalva, who's Raul Grijalva's daughter, and she was just voted in Arizona in the House to be that last vote that would push for this release of for the petition for the release of those Epstein files, the ones that Donald Trump keeps wanting to cover up, and Kash Patel also keeps wanting to cover up, and Pam Bondi keeps wanting to cover up. She would be that last deciding vote. She won like a week or two ago. They have not sworn her in. So Razzle Dazzle Mo here says you have till Wednesday. And if I check my watch that I don't have on right now, today is Wednesday. So I was like, I'm gonna keep my eye out. This would be the confirmation for this guy's having some kind of backing to what it is that he was saying. So since that was earlier in the week, this is what went down, I believe, on Monday. He had an update.
Well, to say the last 24 hours has been stressful and chaotic would be an understatement. I have been talking with a lot of people, including a fantastic team of lawyers. And I want to assure everyone, I am not a danger to myself or others. I am in a safe place. I have discussed this with other people. I am no longer the only person with this information. It is backed up multiple times. This in no way was a shakedown for anything. I stand to benefit nothing from this. I'm safe. My lawyers are figuring out next steps now, and I'll be laying low.
Well, now he's laying low. This was, again, Tuesday, I believe that happened. No, this was on Monday. That was the 29th. He seemed shook. He's stressed. He's potentially talking to attorneys, but he wants to make sure everyone knows that this is not some kind of a grift or a shakedown, right? Who knows yet? But he also posted this really quick. It was just not necessarily a video. This is all in sequence over on his TikTok. He says, I'm being silenced. They have removed my video and I'm being watched. Legal Defense Fund, he asked for the legal defense that he was mentioning before in his bio for more information. But then again, he came right back on Tuesday to talk more about another update. Did you guys see how stressed he was on Monday? This is how he was on Tuesday.
Okay, it's Tuesday, September 30th, 2025 at about 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In consultation with close friends, family, and my attorney, we have decided the following steps are necessary. Any and all materials in my possession related to this matter have now been turned over to a trusted media authority, an investigative journalist who will then vet the information and report as necessary. Any and all copies of this information that were in my possession are now out of my possession and have been turned over to several different sources. If anything should happen to me, this will trigger those sources to release that information as well. This is hard. This is something I never planned on. Obviously, it got the attention it did. TikTok has put an account ban warning on my account and taken down that video. So I'm keeping you updated, as many people have asked me to do. I am not backing down. This is democracy. Democracy will prevail. They may get me in the short term, but in the long term, democracy will prevail. Now is the time for us to stand up and speak out for what is right. They can remove my videos. They can silence me. It's your turn. Please stand up for what's right. Get loud. Civil disobedience may be the answer here. The best thing you can do, and people have asked me this, is to go to the link in my bio and help my legal defense fund. This is going to be very expensive, and lawyers like to get paid. This is in no way any type of a grift situation. I need to pay attorneys. And if you can so do, please do. And if you can't, please share out that link. This is our democracy. We need to stand up for what's right and what's good and defeat this evil regime.
So there you have him even further shook. I mean, again, and this is the first thing I thought. I just want to talk about this for the sake of where these now new avenues of information and access to things that maybe our hypocritical leaders may have shared online. I don't doubt it. There has been those couple documented cases of Grindr shutting down at every big time, Republican event. I believe the RNC, they said it happened. And then apparently now after the Charlie Kirk funeral. And that's where this whole thing started, with him demanding, because people are seeing how every time this happens, there's a ton of hypocrites in this party whose agenda is based on destroying other folks' lives, who are open to live the way that they are and who they are. But of course, the first question that came to me was, well, bro, release him. Just release it then. I mean, you're already under threat. You've already been looking for attorneys. You're not looking for a grift. I understand. Cool. We'll take you at your word. But what then happens if you go ahead and release it? I mean, are they going to say it's fake? Which they would, then that all has to be adjudicated, right? It's even further acknowledgement of what is happening, maybe an investigation to what exactly it is, if they're going to go to suing him or threatening whatever it is that he's saying is happening to him. I was waiting for that next step, and I haven't seen it yet, but he's apparently been silenced. Again, I'm not saying he's lying, but I'm also not saying he's telling the truth, because who knows? I don't have any verifiable direct evidence of what is that's going on. I do believe that Mike Johnson has all kinds of skeletons and backwards ass thinking that he wants to hide from folks. Look at how much he lies. It's his language. It's his love language, is lying. But let's talk about the person that he's trying to keep out. This is Adelita Grijalva, and this is what they're doing to her. Watch her describe it.
It is day 2 here in DC. Look at me. I'm surrounded by all of these beautiful structures, these beautiful people, all here to work. And am I sworn in yet? No. Do I know when I'm going to get sworn in? No. Speaker Johnson has left the building. And unfortunately, what that means for us is Southern Arizona does not have a voice here to advocate for you. You also don't have services in district. I need to get sworn in order for that to happen. Every day that I am here without being sworn in, Southern Arizona loses. Reach out to Speaker Johnson. Let him know that I need to get sworn in. It is day 2 here in.
So even outside of the whole thing of her vowing to sign on to this discharge petition for these Epstein files, she's an elected representative of the United States. So the representation that she's supposed to give to the people of Arizona who voted her in this democracy, they're not getting their representative because Mike Johnson is afraid of that one thing. So he's not doing his job. What other professions, what other parts of life, doesn't have to be a profession, what part-time on the side restaurant job do you have to then vow openly, I'm not going to do my job, just not going to do it, and then somehow expect to keep that job? If you're the damn dishwasher in the back, you're like, I'm not going to show up. Yo, the parts that you needed to help out with that whole system of running filthy ass dishes in and out of that dishwasher and back out to a restaurant full of folks, you're not doing it. So why do they have you there? Mike Johnson is not swearing in a brand new representative that was elected because he's protecting the president. And for some reason, there's not immediate calls for him to be fucking fired. It's what he does. But somehow still just flies right under the radar to not do anything about it. And it's not just him. Here's a session of Congress where, who's it that did this? Morgan Griffith, he's another Republican. Every time there's some new person that chairs each of these hearings, but he comes in, starts this whole hearing and ends it, because this is the opportunity where they could have had to address the situation with Representative-elect Grijalva. Watch how he carries himself. This is not Mike Johnson.
is approved. The chair will lead the House in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to Clause 13 of Rule 1, the House stands adjourned until 3:30 p.m. on Friday, October 3rd at 2025.
And it could just blatantly do it. So that was right before the government shut down. Again, Republicans knowing that it was most likely going to shut down because, look, Donald Trump said, I'm not going to negotiate. F you guys. They know it was shut down. They can step away, not take that last opportunity to do their jobs before running off. Similarly, how Mike Johnson ran off for the August recess a week early at the back end of July because of the same reason. Let's avoid everything regarding releasing these case files. What's the end game? Because this should spark more people who, for some reason, believed anything that this administration has said about this. Be like, man, they're really jumping through every hoop, over every hurdle to make sure that the one thing that doesn't happen, even as we saw survivors of Epstein come forward and talk about how this is exactly what they want, and they call it a hoax. At some point, you have to eventually either say, okay, I'm on the side of protecting Donald Trump and his protection of pedophiles, or I'm too stupid to realize how much of a cover-up this is from top to bottom. This guy, Morgan Griffith, he's not anybody. He's just another House member, but he got a chance to chair this, and his job was one job only: say the Pledge of Allegiance and then run away. That's how it works, bro. So there's a lot of things that they're also keeping Grijalva from doing, as I pointed out, and it's anti-democratic. It's who these guys are. Let's move on to this last story. I got a few minutes left. Am I muted? Am I good? An offshoot of the thing that we're seeing as far as all of these Republicans and their hypocrisy and the potential outing, like that guy said he was going to do to Mike Johnson. Please, you guys, update me if it's happened yet. It is Wednesday. Is also the way that many of these folks in the Republican Party who rail against people's rights, specifically LGBTQ plus, immigrants' rights, all these people that they say they hate, because they do. Sometimes it's because they're covering up their own nefarious, disgusting behavior that they like to heap on folks of that community. Here's one guy who got busted. His name was RJ May. Maybe you guys heard about this guy.
We have 21 victims that we were able to identify, 62 overall. Notice was sent out to those 21 victims over the weekend by our Victim Services Unit at the U.S. Attorney's Office. The conduct found more than 200 unique, non-duplicated videos. Each one was a video recording of a child being sexually abused, infants, toddlers, the most vulnerable among us, children who are not old enough to protect themselves. We selected the 10 most deplorable videos to charge Mr. May with. Today, he pleaded guilty to counts 1 through 5, which are the worst of the worst. It's a priority for the Department of Justice to protect children and take down pedophiles like Robert John May. This heartbreaking case is not victimless. These files are shared over and over again. Agents found May distributed videos like this more than 470 times in 5 days. Every download re-victimizes these children and fuels this evil industry.
So there's a U.S. Attorney, Brian Sterling, reading out some of the charges and things that they've got RJ May III on. RJ May III was an elected official. You guys heard some of the disgusting things he was about, but he was sharing and spreading child exploitation videos and pictures and things like that. I'm going to get to what he said he was about, but let's get to what he did. May pleaded guilty to 5 counts of distributing child sexual abuse material involving infants and toddlers. He waived his right to a trial and faces a maximum of 20 years in federal prison and a minimum of 5 years on each count. followed by at least 5 years of supervised release. So, I mean, we should probably keep an eye on this because we've seen some of these judges give lenient sentences to people that, do disgusting things. Here's more. This investigation began after the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children received a tip from the messaging app Kick, which flagged videos after the user. This is that guy's username on Kick. Joe Biden, a bunch of N's, 69. And they flagged him for containing child sexual abuse. Investigators traced the account to May's home IP address and phone, discovering at least 10 child sexual abuse videos. Disgusting piece of shit. So while he was in these hearings, while he was in his appearance where he talked about and eventually, I guess, pled guilty, he was representing himself with no law degree, but okay, he's busted. Here's details of what happened during that hearing. He made arguments to the judge to throw out the warrant used to search his home, laptop, and mobile devices for reasons unknown. The judge had not ruled on the request before May approached prosecutors about pleading guilty on Wednesday, though. May also was trying to keep out any evidence about whether he used a fake name to travel to Colombia 3 times. Prosecutors said they found videos on his laptop of him allegedly having sex with 3 people. A U.S. Homeland Security agent testified the people appeared to be underage girls and were paid. U.S. agents have not been able to locate the people. I just want to point out some of these similarities we're seeing as far as traveling to some other country or island somewhere, paying underage girls to do things, because that's how these folks are. The louder they shout about how they're coming for all these people, but have no track record for actually coming for these folks, many times they're the folks that are doing this stuff. Here's more details about this trash ass person. Prosecutors said that they linked May to uploading and downloading the child sexual abuse videos by showing he multitasked. This is some of the more disgusting details. He was multitasking, emailing work files, making phone calls, and performing web searches as part of his job as a political consultant, as he was on the Kick asking for, quote, bad moms, bad dads, and bad pre-teens. Again, talked before about how you may have a job at some restaurant and you get fired for the most disruptive things to the process because you're just a worker here. But if you're an elected official and you're over here multitasking while you look for child porn, then you may hang around a little bit longer until someone finally busts you. Here's the last bit of detail on this nasty ass. Here's the hypocrisy part. May was in his 3rd term in the South Carolina House when he was arrested. After his election in 2020, he helped create the Freedom Caucus, a group of the House's most conservative members who say mainstream Republicans in the chamber aren't the true conservative heart of their party. Well, okay. He also helped the campaigns of Republicans running against party members who were House incumbents. Here's a quote. We as legislators have an obligation to ensure that our children have no harm done to them. That's what May said in January of 2024 on the State House floor during a debate on transgender care for minors. We as legislators have an obligation to ensure that our children have no harm done to them. Is he one of these legislators, or is he one of those people who says things like that and then is the one doing the harm to those children? Here's something else he said. This is from November of 2022, from November of 2022. Elon Musk, it is sorry ass. He posted on X, removing child exploitation is a priority number 1. Please reply in comments if you see anything that Twitter needs to address. Very nice. So RJ May responded and said, wonder if this includes exposing children to drag shows or pushing sex changes on toddlers as maybe some of the things that need to be flagged as child exploitation. Drag queens, child exploitation. But RJ May, nasty sumbitch, has instead been sharing those child exploitative videos and pictures and is finally busted for it. It's almost when they shout about this stuff, it's because behind the scenes, they're quietly whispering about those same things. Bro, just go to a drag show. It's okay. It's okay. Just accept humans for who they are. And maybe you'll fly more on the radar for your disgusting, illegal, illicit behavior with children. We're seeing the people who are protecting pedophiles. It's because many times, if they haven't already participated in that activity, it's because they're living vicariously through those folks that they're looking to protect. They're like, well, he's kind of like me. I should probably, lay low. This is slightly unverified, but the Right Wing Watch, because another buddy of mine that did the show with me a couple times, Dara Faye, she posts a lot of things about these folks and the hypocritical nature of the way that they say they're so principled, but they do exactly the opposite. But the Right Wing Watch page documented 28 right-wingers who made news for child sex crimes in just the month of August. Here's some of those guys' faces. We see it all the time. It's similar to what we were talking about before when we had to have this stupid ass debate about, is it the right wing or the left wing that has this political violence? Well, I mean, it's humans that do these things, first of all. But when it comes to that violence part, I mean, that's documented. I'm not sure if we're going to have to document what types of political beliefs fall under the types of people that talk about principles and traditional family values when they then go off and have a bunch of, secret backdoor encounters. And also, searches online and nasty things that they do to children. They have to get the attention off of them because they're the ones who are carrying these things out. There's one other politician. I'm on the back end of this, you guys. There's one other politician that had to drop out of his campaign because of what they discovered about him as well, too. And it's not nearly as bad as what RJ May III was doing. But I'm going to tell you why it's still important. This guy's name is Bill Berrien. He was running for, I believe, governor up in Wisconsin. Here's who he is. Bill Berrien is a supporter of President Donald Trump, and he ended his Republican campaign for governor on September 26, days after it was reported that he followed numerous sexually explicit accounts online, including a non-binary pornography performer. Berrien, who's a former Navy SEAL and one of 3 announced prominent Republican candidates, issued a lengthy statement saying, quote, "I had no idea that running for political office could be almost as dangerous as hunting down war criminals in Bosnia." And he also went and talked about how he can no longer win the Republican primary. Here's another quote. "Looking towards what is in the best interest of the party, voters, donors, and my family, I've decided to end my campaign." So Bill Berrien has ended his campaign because he followed some illicit sites. Again, bro, it's not against the law to follow some illicit sites, to check out your little porn. I mean, I guess they're eventually going down on that route. But the problem is when it's the hypocrisy behind it. This wouldn't even be something that people would have to go and search up about this guy because he followed this account and maybe a few others. But when you have your stance being, I'm going to limit people's rights, these people whose accounts I'm following and fiending after, that they shouldn't exist. They should be under more of this, more threats of violence from folks that they continue to rile up. That's where the problem is. It's your hypocrisy and the fact that you're using what you're hoping to be your next level of power to continue to suppress people's rights and their existence. There's more about this guy. Here's the details of that account that he had. He had this account on the platform Medium, where he followed this non-binary porn performer, Jiz Lee, and several other authors of sexually explicit essays. He also followed publications, which are similar to blogs, that dealt with exploring sexuality, including having relationships with multiple partners. That performer that he followed, Lee, issued a statement that calling Berrien a hypocrite. Several prominent Republicans had been calling for him to drop out of the race too. And the reasons they want him to drop out of the race was not because of any kind of principles or anything, but because they're like, well, this ain't going to work. I mean, we can't continue this facade. If this guy has been discovered to be a complete and utter hypocrite, they might expose the rest of us too. I want to read the back end of some of his explanations and his pissiness about the results of, his actions that he should, he's calling disgusting and illegal. So he was saying he was even more forceful in his statement dropping out of the race, describing the articles that he read and people he followed as cherry-picked. He said it was painted as a salacious and sensational picture that was clearly targeted to force me out of this governor's race. It was a major attack piece. And he goes, and for what? For reading. Nothing illegal, nothing unethical, and nothing immoral. Just reading. Wouldn't you want your political and business leaders and all of society, frankly, to be widely read and thoughtful and aware of different perspectives and ideas? You son of a bitch. You follow somebody and support him openly, a guy who's against just reading. He said it was nothing illegal, unethical, or immoral, except you guys call these folks' existence immoral. You say anybody that supports their ability to live freely and happily without people trying to kill them every day, that they're looking to upend this country. They're destroying the family. The country can no longer survive like this. How can this work? All these hateful, rabidly bloodthirsty things that they say about folks. They say it while they're campaigning, and then they shut down that campaign and go on their computer in the dark and look at all the folks that they say shouldn't exist. It's hypocrisy, bro. So no, you shouldn't have to drop out of your race because you like to watch Jizz Lee. But when you say Jizz Lee shouldn't exist, bro, that's hypocritical. And you got booted out by the folks who are like you because they couldn't take having to deal with the fact that you guys are a bunch of hypocritical liars. That's the problem. I say expose more of them. And then maybe, we can come to this point where we're like, okay, I'll let you guys know. I'm a conservative, but I mean, I'm gay. Go ahead, bro. You can be gay. You just can't exploit children, which RJ May the Third apparently did. Okay. I'll see you guys later. Head over to the damage report. Say hi to John for me. There's something big about the WNBA I wanted to talk to him about, though. It's a shame I got to wait till Monday. Maybe I'll crash and say things to him as well there. But I'm glad you guys are here. If you enjoyed what we had going on, it's going to be posted up on the page later. Go ahead and find those, like those, share those. Do me a favor over on that as well. We'll be back on tomorrow. Let folks know we're doing this at noon every day as well, too. And I'll keep an eye out for Razzle Dazzle Mo and see if he had some kind of new information on Mike Johnson, because I'd like to know. I'll see you guys later. Appreciate you. Bye.